Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation 2024 Festival Edition. Please join me, Kelly Devine, the head programmer, and Nina Strike, founder and festival director, in conversation with Denise Dragiewicz, filmmaker and alumna of our film festival. This day, we are in conversation with her about her latest film, In the Land of Palm Oil. That film is part of our upcoming programming. Our in-person portion of our 2024 festival begins September 17th and runs through September 22nd. Our virtual festival starts September 23rd, ending September 29th. Information about all of our events and tickets for all of our films can be found at peacefilmfest.org. And now let's say hello to Denise. We're so happy to have your latest film and so honored to have been able to have programmed films of yours in the past. So welcome to today's conversation.
Thank you.
It's great to see you, Denise.
Thank you.
And let's just start. Tell us about In the Land of Palm Oil.
Okay, so In the Land of Palm Oil is about Indonesia. And so Indonesia grows the greatest amount of palm oil in the world. So that's why I named it In the Land of Palm Oil. When most people think of palm oil, they think about Indonesia. It started there like 3 decades ago. I would say it probably, in the last 2 decades, it got really widespread, the growth of palm oil there, as palm oil is being used more and more in products throughout the world, especially in the Western world. I feel like I read something the other day that in the United States, at least 50% of the products that we use contain palm oil. And it's used in such a wide spectrum of things, which most people don't realize. I think a lot of people have heard of palm oil, but don't really quite understand what it is. And I think that because it's so usable in so many substances, that's why, more people are using it more and more nowadays. But it's used in shampoo, it's used in chocolate, it's used in peanut butter, it's used in actually biodiesel for gas. It's used in so many products that it's really hard to stay away from it. I do my best to stay away from it personally, but I don't think that I probably don't even realize that some things that I'm using are actually using palm oil, because it's renamed in a lot of different products. Like if you ever read the back of your shampoo bottle, I really don't understand what the ingredients are in palm oil. I mean, in shampoo, so they're not explicit like some other things, like when I'm reading food labels that are more explicit. Even like toothpaste, like all of these normal products that we use, they're all using palm oil nowadays. And like I said, the majority of palm oil is grown in Indonesia, and the majority of that is grown in Indonesian Borneo, which is called Kalimantan, and Sumatra. And so our film takes place in central Kalimantan, which is a province in Indonesian Borneo or Kalimantan. And so we went there initially in 2017, and I had no idea about any of this. Okay, I've heard about palm oil and I heard about, some of these concepts that we touch upon on the film, but I didn't know anything in detail. And the reason why we went there is because my husband is a biologist and he works on the films with me a little bit, but mostly like as an advisor, like as a scientific advisor. But he had an idea that we went there and film in some of the regions that he had done work in the past. And so we connected with a group called the Borneo Nature Foundation, and we suggested that, if they provide access to some of the regions where they have their organization, then perhaps that we could do some video work for them and they could use it on their social media. So we went there in 2017, and I was really thinking at the time that we were going to be filming orangutans and focus really on the deforestation of orangutan habitat. But I'm really glad that we did not choose to go that way. But we spent like 3 months filming orangutans and other wildlife, mostly in a park called Sabangao Park. And most people are not able to go there. Like it's just researchers basically that are able to go there. But at this area, Sabangao National Park, it's the largest area of orangutan habitat that's left in the world. I mean, orangutans are only from this region anyway. They're only from Indonesia and Malaysia. But most of their habitat has been lost from deforestation. So the largest living population of orangutans now are living in this park in central Kalimantan and what's called Sabangao National Park. So we filmed there and all the wildlife there for months. And while we were there, I was learning about all this deforestation that had been happening in the area recently. And so we were there in 2015, 2017. And I didn't even realize in 2015, there were these widespread fires all over the island of, well, all over Borneo. And it actually turned the air yellow because the pollution was so bad. And the pollution spread from Borneo and it spread to the neighboring countries of Malaysia, and it spread to Singapore. Yesterday, I was actually having lunch with one of my friends in Jersey City, and she had lived in Singapore at the time. And I asked her, "Do you remember, the haze that happened in 2015?" And she said, "Yeah, totally. It like you couldn't even breathe." And this was all the way in Singapore. And these are from the wildfires that were happening in Indonesia, on Indonesian Borneo. So yeah, so this started me wondering like what was going on, like how did these fires get so bad in this area that is known for their rainforests? And so I started interviewing more people in the region, and somebody told me that I should go interview this really young activist, and she was only 23 or 24 at the time. And so her name was Emmanuel Shinta. So I went down there. I had a translator with me because she really wanted to speak in her native tongue, which is Dayak Manyan. And nobody really speaks that language. So we had like this 2.5 hour interview. And afterwards, I'm like, all right, well, I need someone to help me translate it because otherwise I won't be able to understand what you said or, to use it later on. So she came over to the place where I was staying. And for like 2 days, we sat there and we transcribed her interview that she had given me. And we just started talking, and I'm like, you know what? I just think that you would be such a great character in a film. Like she was just so passionate about everything that was going on there and really wanting to get this information out to the world who had no idea about what was going on there. She's like, where all of us are like suffering every year through this haze that we can't even breathe the air. And even 2015, when it was so bad there, she was like, our local government, they just left. The airports were closed and everything because the airplanes couldn't go in and out of the city because the sky was so dark for months. And the people, when it started getting bad, the people in the provincial government, they just left and abandoned everybody. So they had nothing that they could do. And it's like, it's different because so I'm in a house right now that has an air conditioning unit. And a lot of times these air conditioning units can like filter out the air. But a lot of these people, the villagers that lived in the area, they have no, they don't have windows and ventilation like we have. So they're basically living with this type of toxic haze for months. And there was a study afterwards by Harvard and Columbia universities, and they said that they estimated at least 100,000 people had died in 2015 during the peak of the fire season, which was probably in September and October. Of course, the Indonesian government refutes those numbers, but I would imagine that they're pretty accurate. So then after that happened, so people that are living there, some people like Shinta is going like, what happened and why did this happen? Why did these fires? They've been happening every year. Like she says, I think at some point in the film, like I grew up with this. Like every year it was the fire season, it was the haze season. It was just something normal, but it was just really exacerbated in 2015 because it was an El Nino year and it was like I guess a more dramatic El Nino year. So everything was really dry and everything was just really ripe to burn. So another thing about the environment in Indonesian Borneo, especially in the area that we were filming in central Kalimantan, is it's considered peat swamp or peat lands. Okay, so peat lands are okay, so let's say peat swamp. Most people are familiar with swamps are. So the peatlands in the area are deep bodies of water in some areas, and some areas they're not so deep. But they're also very carbon dense areas. So when they're drained for agriculture, um, palm oil, they get very flammable. So because so much of the area has been used for the palm oil to grow palm oil, and the peatlands have been drained. The area was just so flammable because it's just full of carbon. So once one area starts to get, starts to start with fires, then they just spread so rampantly because it's just like this whole field of carbon all over the place. And it even travels underground. And so I've heard a lot of people say that like a fire could start here and it pop up miles away because that's the way that peatlands work, where they travel, the carbon just makes it travel the fire underground, and then it will just automatically pop up in this other area. So this whole region in 2015 was just full with fires, and there was no way to put them out. They really had to wait till the rainy season to come for the fires to start dissipating. So like I'm saying, like afterwards, people like Shinta are asking why, why did this happen? And they started understanding that the reason why was because the ground, the land, the environment was so degraded because of all of the palm oil plantations that had been built in the last 2 to 3 decades. And it was just, a matter of time before some kind of natural disaster like this would spark a greater disaster with the fires. So that was like the impetus of the film, my conversation with her and then learning about the fires. And so I said to her at the time, I'm like, we should do a bigger film together. We should start working on this right now. I was just about to leave. So I'm like, let's just stay in touch. Let's keep talking. Let's think about what we want to do, and how we can make this into like a larger film. And we'll put you as the center character. You'll be the center activist. So that's what we did. Me and my husband went back in 2018, almost exactly a year later. But the whole time, me and Shinta had been planning and thinking about what we wanted to do and what we wanted to make as the focus of the film. And, of course, we came up with a lot of ideas. But, she wanted to start interviewing some Dayak landowners who had lost their land to the palm oil companies, because she thought that was, besides the fires, okay, the second greatest topic, I guess, that's involved with this whole situation is not only, are there palm oil plantations all over the place, but where are these palm oil plantations being built? They're being built in rainforest areas that have been leveled, that have, previous areas that were basically natural areas or maybe natural parks, things like that. But a lot of the area had been lived on. A lot of these plantations had been built upon areas where people were living, where the Dayak people were living, and where people that she had known were living, people that, were in her family in her native village were living. And what was going on was, and it's still like this right now in Indonesia, that a lot of these people don't have land rights certificates. So it's not like, where we live, where we have a title to our home or something like that. So I know that this house belongs to me and it's recognized by my government. Well, in Indonesia and a lot of places where there are indigenous peoples that are living in natural environments, they don't have land rights titles. They don't, nothing is saying this land belongs to them. So it's very easy for an organization to just pay off a local official and for them to go in and say, you know what, I'm going to take this land and do whatever I want with it. And the people really don't have any recourse because they can't fight it. Okay. And a lot of times this happens just right underneath their noses. There's no confrontation or anything, at the beginning because it happens at night. A lot of the people that we had interviewed in the film, they said they woke up in the morning and there was palm oil, on their fields, where the night before there might have been fruit and vegetables or rice growing, and so the companies just come in right away, convert the land. I guess it's easily done in some instances. They have like a big crew with them. And when the people go to fight it, they're like, well, who says that it's your land? And they have no recourse. There's nothing that they could do to fight it. So unfortunately, it's been going on for a very long time. Um, and this is basically what Shinta had wanted to get out. She wants this information to get out to the public. I still don't, to this day, think that there's a lot of information out there on this topic, on the topic of land rights in Indonesia and what's going on with these deeper issues that involve palm oil. So like the palm oil issue is so much bigger than what people I think generally seem to know about it. So people generally seem to know it involves orangutan habitat, it involves wildlife habitat, and it involves deforestation. So maybe what we could do is make sustainable palm oil. So if we made sustainable palm oil, then it would be better for the environment. But it's such a bigger issue than that. It has so much more to do with land rights and how these people are stripped of their rights and their livelihoods, and also the dangers of the fires, and not only localized dangers for the people that are living there, but the amount of carbon that's released. And I don't have the number right now off the top of my head, the amount of carbon that's released into the atmosphere every year when they have these fires, okay, during their dry season, during their fire season, is just enormous. I'm just trying to think of if I have any quotes on the top of my head, but I feel like a quote that I'm using sometimes is like, in the last 2.5 decades, the carbon output of Indonesia has gone up like 300%. So an area that was traditionally like a carbon sink that would initially draw in carbon because of its the amount of natural areas, the amount of rainforest that they have there, is now just the opposite, where all of this carbon is being released from the peat swamp that's being burned, from the peat area that's not really a swamp anymore. But all of this carbon is now being released into the atmosphere, and making, global warming so much worse. So I know I just said like so much stuff, but like that's what's going on here. Like there's just so much going on with this whole issue of palm oil. And I do really think that most people are unaware of it. And most people think it's just, like smaller scale issues, or more simpler things, like if we could just save orangutan habitat, or just make, palm oil a little bit more sustainable, then this crop and this industry would be more ethical, and we would all sleep better knowing that we can use it in all of our products. But I don't think it's as simple as that. There's just so many different layers of this industry and what's going on, and not even just in Indonesia, but it's mostly going on there. Like that's the headquarters. So that's what we're trying to show in the film.
Well, Denise, I want to applaud you for having seen the film, and I know people who are watching this probably have not seen the film. That your choice to center the story on this young activist is really illuminating and engaging, because all of the, as I was listening to you talk about all of these different issues, I was realizing how much I had gotten out of following her in her journey. So I think if you could speak about, how important it was to have kind of an indigenous person at the center of it, telling her own story.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing of all, because it's really her telling her story. We worked side by side the whole way, together as partners. Yeah, like because she's also like very interested in filmmaking, and she likes being on camera. Like she's very easy to work with. If I told her to do something 10 times over again, she would do it, and she wouldn't even question it. She would just do it because she understands the importance of filmmaking and she enjoys it too. But yeah, so much of this was just paved by her. These are her ideas. And I just like kind of like, we were always having these conversations about things that are going on. And I would go, maybe let's do that. Let's explore that idea. And then we would just do everything. Like we were like filming basically for 7 years straight. That we had so much footage. It took me so long to go through it all. And to be honest with you, I did mostly all of this during the pandemic. So like the editing part of it. And I was kind of almost grateful for it. I'm like, oh my God. So I don't even have to have an excuse to do anything else. I could just sit on my computer and basically do that. Because there was just so much to go through. There was so much footage. We explored so many different avenues, and trying to pick out the ones that were actually going to be the best in terms of storytelling was a little bit difficult, but I think it worked. I've watched the film like a million times since we called like a wrap on it. And I think it works. I think following her life, her journey, her story, seeing what she wants, out of all of this, what she wants out of her activism work, what she wants out of the film, I think that is a good storytelling tool. And I think it really might help to bring, people in, to draw people into what's going on there. Mm. And to make like indigenous activists seem real, like they're not just, we're not just looking at like a movie that a white person made. We're looking at a movie, that an indigenous person who's living this has made.
Yeah, and it definitely comes through, and that the story comes through her makes all of the interconnections that you were talking about, how people might have heard about palm oil and think it's maybe a very isolated issue that can be dealt with easily. But watching her experience it, you don't really need any additional expert talking heads kind of a context around it, because you can actually see as she goes through her life how interconnected all of these things are.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's terrific. And so since the Global Peace Film Festival, we program many of your films because they always do such a wonderful job of illuminating issues that are important to uh, you know a peaceful world, a world that's sustainable. We envision peace, in a very broad context. So can you tell us a little bit about what you hope people will take away from seeing this film, and where you think that they will, what kind of actions you hope they might be able to take?
hmm Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tricky one. So people would definitely criticize me for saying that I think that we should stay away from palm oil, because I think a big criticism with that is that people say, well, if we use a different type of oil, then it would be worse on the environment. Palm oil is so easy to grow, and it's cheap to grow. And if we use something else like, coconut oil or something like that as an alternative, you would need so much more land to grow it, and it would be even worse for the environment. I don't know. I really don't know if that's true or not. But what I'm trying to say is that it's not just about the environment. I mean, that's one aspect of this. I mean, we need to think about and be concerned about what it's doing, these types of industries. And it's not just palm oil, and it's not just in Indonesia, what these industries are doing to people, that are living in these areas, because there are people that are living in rural areas, indigenous areas all over the world. And this is happening more and more, where companies are coming in and encroaching upon their livelihoods and stealing their livelihoods for them, because their livelihoods are their land. You hear all the time when I'm interviewing people, they say, my inheritance, this was my land, this was my inheritance, this is what was given to me by my parents, by my ancestors. I was supposed to have this land. And what are they supposed to do when they don't have it? And I mean, aside from that, it's proven time and time again that the environment in these areas is so much managed so much better when it comes to the indigenous people holding onto their land rights than when other people come in and start to use the land. But I don't know. I think I just want people to think about, a little bit more, like, where are these things coming from? What is palm oil? What are the products that we use every day, and where are they coming from, and who are they harming? And is there a way that we could make things more ethical? Maybe not only more sustainable, but more ethical, and we should think about that kind of thing, because we're all living in one world, and I feel like more and more you think everything's happening so far away, but it's not really happening so far away. We're all like interconnected. And I don't mean to say that in like a corny way, but it's true. And if we don't have more of a balance and stability, and we don't think about, everything that we're doing right now and how that's affecting other people, then those actions are going to come back to us, in some way or another. And I think we just have to think about it, just be aware of what's going on and how we can make a change. And I don't know if I want to tell people what change that should be. I feel like when I learn about things and I think about how I want to make a change, and maybe I'm just want to like illuminate this issue so people could think about how they want to make that change in their own life. Personally, I stay away from palm oil. That's my personal choice. I don't like the industry at all. I just think the whole industry is just unethical. And I do think it is possible to avoid it. And I see products all the time that says right on it, no palm oil being used. So obviously that company is doing that for a reason. You know what I mean? And I would just rather stay with that kind of company than with a company that doesn't really care where those products are coming from. Mm.
So Denise, what's next for the film, and what's next for you?
Okay. So something that happened today was lesson plans got published that are going to accompany the film, an organization called Teach Rock. They are another nonprofit located, they were in New York, but now they kind of dispersed since the pandemic. So they take documentary films and they create lesson plans for students in the United States using standards for K through 12 education. So ours are mostly going to be focused on grades 6 through 8, but they also said they're going to, I think, try to expand upon them so they hit other grades as well. Because I really want the film to be a teaching tool. It doesn't necessarily only have to fall into environmental categories, but it could fall into an anthropological categories as well. But they did such a great job of it. If you look on my website now, I just put it all the way on the top, a link to the lesson plans. They did a really good job of like having the students have to like investigate the carbon makeup of peatlands and what happens to the peatlands when they're drained for agriculture. And there's just all these different lesson plans that I would never have, ideas that I would never have thought about. So I'm so glad that it's in their hands, like that those plans came from them, because they're going to help me promote it on an educational level. And they also talk about activism and why activism is important and things like that. So they're using the film and they're also using another band. I can't remember what the name of it is, another band that protests the palm oil industry in Indonesia. So they're using that as the basic music component. Because mostly everything that they do, it's called Teach Rock. Everything that they do involves music. Mhm.
Ah,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
was wondering where the name came in.
Yeah. But so they also have like a sub component of their organization called the Environmental Jukebox. And so this fits into that. So they're trying to expand upon that and do more environmental plans. So they're great. You should take a look at them. If you go on my website today, because I just fixed it today. There's a link on the website and it will bring you to the page with a lesson plan. So if there's any teachers out there that are looking to incorporate the film into their classroom, definitely go visit that and see what they develop because it's really great.
Oh,
Mhm.
well, yeah, that's wonderful, Denise.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm really excited about it. Mhm. And in terms of like what's next, I'm tentatively looking at this activist in Colombia right now, but I don't have too much to say about her. I don't even want to say her name, but she sings and she sings really great music that is inspired by she's inspired by, I guess, the African diaspora in Colombia. So like her music just, I mean, when I listen to some of her music, it sounds just like something that you would hear from like a West African singer. And she's also involved with activism work and environmental work in Colombia. And so I've been following her and supposedly we're getting closer and closer to actually, talking together. Because I know her through a friend of mine that we worked with in the past. So that's what I really want to do. And the more and more I think about it, and the more and more like I fall in love with her music as I'm following her on social media, the more I want to do it. Like I would love to have a film that centers upon music and the environment and activism. So
Well, we would love to program that. So we will definitely stay in touch with you on the progress of that possible new project. That's fantastic, Denise. Thank you so much.
you're
And
welcome.
you're welcome. And thank you to everyone who listened to today's Glow. We've been talking to director Denise Dragiewicz, the director of In the Land of Palm Oil. And as she mentioned, there are lesson plans and other information to seek out on her website, which is inthelandofpalmoil.org. That's inthelandofpalmoil.org. Please consider coming out to the Global Peace Film Festival, which is upcoming in September if you're in the Central Florida area. Our in-person programming begins September 17th and ends on the 22nd. Our virtual programming begins September 23rd, ending on the 29th. You can find out information about ticketing for all of our films and information about all of our other events at peacefilmfest.org. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Glow.